Hi everyone, welcome to CBD 101 training. This is a training that we did in Las Vegas for the Level Up convention, and we are going to teach you about many things about CBD, about a system in our body, about how to properly work with your clients, so many things. So we hope that you like this training, and we'll get kicked off right away.
Hey guys, this is Molly Fulgham in Tampa, Florida, and I just want to put out a disclaimer before we get started, letting you know that we are not doctors, that this presentation is for educational purposes only, and it is not to be construed as offering medical advice or taking the place of any medical provider's recommendations. So with that, I'm going to start off with some of the basics, and the first being marijuana versus hemp. And what is the difference? So hemp is a term used to classify varieties of cannabis that contain 0.3% or less THC content. Marijuana is a term used to classify varieties of cannabis that contain more than 0.3% THC and can induce psychotropic and euphoric effects on the user. The defining characteristic between hemp and marijuana is the chemical composition contained within each plant. Both hemp and marijuana can produce high amounts of CBD, the non-intoxicating cannabis compound. However, THC is produced at very different levels. While hemp can contain no more than 0.3% THC by dry weight, marijuana can contain up to 30% THC content. A common misconception about the 2018 Farm Bill is that it legalized CBD regardless of if it was derived from hemp or marijuana. And this is not true. Based on the guidance of the DEA, CBD is still considered a Schedule I controlled substance. If, however, the CBD is derived from hemp, which contains no more than 0.3% THC, it would not be regulated as a controlled substance and is federally legal. This part is very important. It must be derived from hemp. The 2018 Farm Bill explicitly applies to hemp and hemp-derived products. It does not include marijuana-derived CBD, which remains under the regulation of the FDA as a controlled substance. Even if the CBD contains 0.0% THC, if it is derived from marijuana, it is not legalized under the 2018 Farm Bill. So to recap, hemp-derived CBD is legal if it contains 0.3% THC or less under the Agricultural Act of 2018. Marijuana-derived CBD is illegal and is still classified as a controlled substance regardless of the percentage of THC. So then, what is the difference in male versus female hemp, and why does Green Compass use female plants to produce our CBD? Male hemp and cannabis plants produce pollen, which fertilizes female plants and causes them to produce seeds. For industrial hemp growers producing grain or fiber, this is not a problem. Industrial hemp is often harvested for its nutritious seeds or fibrous stalk, not its cannabinoid or terpene-rich flower. However, seeded flower is the last thing a hemp farmer wants when the goal is to extract non-psychoactive cannabinoids. When a hemp crop is pollinated, that crop loses 50% of its biomass and 30% of its total cannabinoid content. This is because energy that would have been spent producing those big resinous flowers was instead put towards producing seeds. In cultivation of hemp for medical purposes, the female flowers are sought after because they produce significantly higher quantities of cannabinoids than male flowers. In production, the presence of even one male plant in a growing facility or a little stray pollen can cause female plant flower buds to produce seed, significantly reducing the hemp medicinal product. In addition, the seed that is produced is a mixed bag of males and females, and if used for production, will require the removal of male plants and a lot of extra labor and lost production. So that is why Green Compass uses the female plants.
That was awesome. Thank you. So how does CBD become CBD? I know it's a really strange question, right? Like, doesn't CBD grow in the cannabis plant? Well, the mystery behind this question lies in a process called decarboxylation. Raw cannabis must be heated or decarboxylated for acids to convert into active cannabinoids. Decarboxylation is a chemical process that removes a carboxyl group, and that process turns CBDA into CBD and THCA into THC. CBDA is a cannabinoid found in the hemp plant. CBD is also a cannabinoid. But if you examine raw hemp, there would be very little CBD and an abundant amount of CBDA. That's because CBDA is the acid precursor to CBD. And CBD only comes into being when raw hemp containing CBDA is heated or decarboxylated, which then activates cannabinoids. Well, the word activate really isn't entirely accurate. Cannabinoid acids like CBDA and THCA do influence the body themselves, so they don't necessarily need to be activated to work. However, decarboxylation alters the structure of the cannabinoid acids, changing the effect that they have on the ECS. Now, we at Green Compass use CO2 extraction, which is the cleanest, purest method of extraction, using heat and mild pressure to extract the oil, causing the decarboxylation to occur, thereby turning the CBDA into CBD and the THCA into THC. Now, raw hemp may be beneficial nutritionally, but it certainly would disappoint anyone looking for a psychological or physiological effect.
Okay, so we are going to talk to you about a system that you may not know about. So we all know the major systems, right? Circulatory, pulmonary, skeletal, muscular, nervous system, right? We learned about these in elementary through high school. And some of you guys beyond that, if you're a medical professional, you've definitely done a lot more training on the systems of the human body. But I'm going to tell you a little secret. There is a system that is supreme and in control of all the rest. Like, what the heck? That is so crazy, right? Because nobody's been talking about it. It's been left out of all medical textbooks and training despite being discovered in the 1990s. So I'm going to tell you a story about this amazing system and the root cause of disease. The endocannabinoid system. I'm going to have you say it with me, okay? You ready? Endocannabinoid. Say it again. Endocannabinoid. Endocannabinoid. What this basically means is that our body has cannabinoids produced internally, and endogenous means that it is produced by our human body, whereas phytocannabinoids, which is being CBD and THC and all of the cannabinoids, those are made by plants, so they are phytocannabinoids. So basically what it means is we have an endogenous cannabinoid system that regulates every single living being except for insects. So if you have a spine, your body produces endocannabinoids and can be utilizing phytocannabinoids or plant cannabinoids, which are, by the way, found in way more than just cannabis. Brussels sprouts have CBD, black pepper, cacao or cocoa. Our bodies even produce cannabinoids, for instance, in breast milk. Now, they're not the same as the plant cannabinoids, but it is very interesting to note that it does exist in more than just the cannabis family. So, the endocannabinoid system, think of it as a signaling system. Between the receptors you see here on the right, there are signals and information and communication being sent around our body at all times. We are like a gigantic switchboard, and the endocannabinoid system actually regulates and manages the function of the switchboard. So we have receptors sending information to our neurons, and that is how all of the body is able to actually be activated and utilize cannabinoids found in cannabis from hemp. So the discovery of the cellular membrane cannabinoid receptors occurred in the 1990s when cannabinoid receptor type 1, which is called CB1, was found in the synapses of the central nervous system and the sensory neurons' peripheral terminals. CB1 receptors are expressed in abundance in the hippocampus, cortex, basal ganglia, cerebellum, and spinal cord. These account for cannabinoid effects on memory, cognition, and movement. And this is all based on medical studies and research done by GW Pharmaceuticals and Dr. Dustin Sulak. So the endocannabinoid system has receptors all over the body. It regulates everything from relaxation to eating, sleeping, inflammation, even in cognitive function. So in a nutshell, the ECS is responsible for making sure the entire body is working optimally. CBD oil has been shown to positively regulate the ECS, addressing issues as our body's response to the management of anxiety, stress, insomnia, discomfort, and inflammation. But why do we need to access the brain? Well, the brain is kind of the boss of the body, right? But it also is regulated by the endocannabinoid system. The brain manages cognitive processes, memory and learning, and also CBD oil is able to provide neuroprotection to the brain. Now, in the body, it stimulates an anti-inflammatory response, which helps with reducing all forms of chronic discomfort. Regular use helps support joint health, mobility, and flexibility. In the brain, it helps positively regulate mood patterns, which help reduce stress, and also promotes better sleep cycles, because in the body, the ECS is able to regulate the function of melatonin, the production of melatonin from the pineal gland, as well as serotonin and dopamine, and actually regulating our adrenaline functions. But what else does it do? So we all know that age is our downfall, and inflammation is a natural killer responsible for all sorts of diseases such as diabetes, heart disease, cancer, and much more. But inflammation is also a positive mechanism to help heal damaged tissue. So the endocannabinoid system is a critical part of managing the parts of the body that will finely tune to make you feel well again. And the reason that we want us to feel this is because we want to go into a process called homeostasis. And homeostasis is when the body is completely regulated. This also helps with your immune system, regulating inflammation, supporting bone health, regulates skin turnover, regulates the chemical processes. You guys can't see that video, but homeostasis does so many different things. And what is most important about this is that we are looking for a level of balance. We're not looking for a cure. We're not looking for a treatment. We're not looking for some miracle. We're just looking for our body to balance itself. And homeostasis is going to be different for everybody because of our age and the degradation of our body over time. But it's very, very important that we note that CBD and THC and all of these cannabinoids are not the ones that are curing us or doing any actual the work. They are accessing the endocannabinoid system to produce the ability to do all the things itself. Does that make sense? The endocannabinoid system is regulating our body to heal itself. These products do not heal us. Our body heals us. And it's very important to note that the brain is so powerful and the body is so powerful to be able to do all of these things for us. A great question, is it safe for kids and pets? Everybody that has a spine has an endocannabinoid system. So kids and pets also have an endocannabinoid system. They have it when they're born. So just like adult humans, yes, it is safe for kids and pets, but you always have to make sure that there are no allergy issues, and that also the pet or the child can also digest and ingest the CBD oil. But anytime there's a special issue, you should always consult your doctor before starting any supplemental product, and make sure to use special caution with allergies and also with ingestion. But other than that, take best precaution, use your brain, and make sure that you're doing things safely. But overall, yes, CBD is safe for kids and pets. All right, Tracy Lee, I'm going to kick it over to you.
Awesome, awesome. Certificate of analysis. We hear that over and over again, right? Here at Green Compass, we often talk about our COAs. And as an advocate, you should know what to look for and how to read them. Now, a COA is a lab report that breaks down the chemical makeup of a product. Certificate of analysis are used to verify not only the cannabinoid, but also the terpene and contaminant profiles of any CBD product. COAs are used to verify that the contents of the product match how it's advertised. And it's also really important to verify that there's no more than 0.3% THC in order to comply with the industrial hemp law. Now, interestingly enough, there was a study done in 2017 that found that almost 70% of online CBD products are mislabeled, having substantially more or less CBD than is advertised. And about 25% of those had actually no CBD content at all. With little to no regulation, manufacturers could claim a CBD product contains no THC or claim a certain potency, and the opportunity to kind of fudge the numbers gets compounded. Now, this case in point supports the fact that labeling alone is not reliable. Certificate of analysis create transparency for consumers as well as regulators to clearly identify exactly what is and what is not inside any given hemp extract. Now, I have several screenshots here I'm going to share with you, and although they're all from the same third-party lab, they are not all from Green Compass products. As a Green Compass advocate, it's important for you to know that it is not uncommon for a certificate of analysis to be 7, 8, 9 pages long and longer. And I realize it can be really intimidating to anybody who hasn't learned what to look for or how to read a COA. Green Compass is a certified organic hemp farm. And what that means is that we've already had to prove that our farms are free of any chemical contaminants, heavy metals, pesticides, and you should really be proud to show a Green Compass certificate of analysis. Now let's look at these COAs. In the top left, you see the name of a lab that performed the analysis. You want to be sure that this company is not the same company that's selling the product. A third-party lab will report on all the details without any bias and should ensure transparency of the results. Now, on the top left, you're also going to see the batch number and the description of the sample that was tested. Now, in this case, it was 1,000 milligram full spectrum cinnamon oil. Now, on the top right, you're going to see the name of the company and the contact person that's selling the product listed. In the top center of the report is a QR code. Now, this code this code is not going to be on every certificate of analysis, but it is very important. If you scan this code with your QR reader, it'll actually take you to the third-party testing lab's website, where you can see this certificate of analysis, and you can cross-check to be sure that it hasn't been fabricated or altered. Cross-checking is very, very important, and this QR code is definitely helpful. Now, the bottom half of this first page, we're going to click to our next slide, is going to be the cannabinoid profile of the sample that was given, listing the cannabinoids detected and their concentration. Now, this is probably the most important part of the certificate of analysis because it tells consumers exactly which cannabinoids are present and at what potency. The ID column indicates which cannabinoids that were tested on this COA. You can also see that delta 9 THC is at the top. That's the cannabinoid that must be lower than 0.3% by weight in order to be legal. You'll see the results in the middle column under the weight percentage. The D9 THC is the psychoactive component that the law monitors. You'll notice a list of other cannabinoids that are present in this sample. As you continue on your journey, you're going to quickly learn that CBD and THC are cannabinoids, but they're far from the only ones that will be present on a COA. Now, if you're looking for a COA, or if you're looking at a COA and you don't see a long list of cannabinoids, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad CBD oil. It just means that the other cannabinoids didn't show up on the chromatograph. ND is going to stand for non-detect, which basically means that the amount was so tiny the lab instruments couldn't detect it. This lab report shows CBD THC and CBC were detected, and their concentration is reported in the milligrams per gram of the product. The report shows that THC was detected, and it reflects the concentration of 1.72 milligrams by weight. The concentration column is the potency of the tested CBD oil and should be compared to the label on the product. Now on the right here, you see a bar graph. This graph is going to represent a visual on the information given on the left, and it should reflect the same information. All right, let's switch to the next section, which is going to be our heavy metals analysis. It's also going to show chemical solvents. Now this shows which metals showed up on the test and at what concentration. MDL is the minimum measured concentration, and the units refer to the measurement size. The use limit is very important as it refers to ingestion. This amount is determined by the State Department and Public Health, as well as the US Pharmacopoeia. They've decided that this is the amount that's safe for us to ingest daily. I'm not sure about you, but I don't want any of these things in my body. Now, the chemical solvents is a major no-no. If a lab report shows any glycols, polyethylene glycol, which would show up as PEG, or propylene glycol, which would show up as PG, you need to stay far away from that product. Those are chemical solvents that break down into carcinogenic, cancer-causing aldehydes like formaldehyde and acetaldehyde. Simply just stay away. So the next slide we're going to see is going to show us microbes. Listen, you don't want them in your food, and you don't want them in your CBD products. The term microbe is very vague, and there are millions of different species of microbial organisms, both good and bad. But in general, you don't want any living organism present in your CBD oil. So if microbes show up on your third-party lab report, your best bet is to just steer clear. Now, another part in the COA is going to be our next slide, which shows pesticide analysis, which is going to show pesticides, herbicides, growth hormones, and fertilizers. Now, this is going to list common pesticides that are tested for in the sample. It's possible that there would be others, but if the lab doesn't test for those, they won't show up. Now, in case you need any clarification, you absolutely do not want any pesticides, herbicides, growth hormones, or fertilizers to show up on a third-party lab report. The best oils are going to be 100% free of any of these potentially harmful byproducts. Now, again, you can see the limits column, and that's going to show us the maximum that's allowed for consumption based on safety regulations of federal guidelines. Pass under the legal limit, or no pass would be if the levels are above the limit. But again, if any amount shows up, you're gonna want to steer clear. We're gonna pass it over to Marlies for some more interesting info.
Okay, thanks, Tracilea. Now, one of the biggest questions that we get is on dosing. Now, while we can't actually tell you or tell our clients how much to take, we can give them specific guidelines on to allow them to experiment. Now, microdosing is one of the best ways and has been referred by most cannabis doctors on the way to slowly increase into your body. Now, your sweet spot dose is the amount of CBD that gives you the desired results that you're looking for. And it's important to understand that this sweet spot is different for every person. Now, while weight can definitely make a difference in the dosing of someone's body, it really is based on the sensitivity and the activation of our endocannabinoid system, like we talked about before, the signaling throughout the body. And the signaling throughout the body isn't necessarily indicative of weight, but of course, a child size and an adult size is definitely going to make a difference, just like a horse and a dog would. Most people can take 2 aspirin and it'll generally be effective for them, but with CBD, everyone's endocannabinoid system is very different. So as a result, CBD oil users need to expect to do their own experimentation to find the CBD dose that is optimal for them. So for more, less is more, right? we do not need to take more CBD to get the desired effects when our body is already activated. So I'm going to give you a quick guideline on how to continue to microdose effectively in your body. So let's say you're starting with a 500 milligram tincture and you put 2 drops under your tongue and you hold it there for 2 minutes. You want it to absorb into the veins in your mouth, the oral mucosal veins, and this allows it to go directly into the bloodstream, which you want to deliver throughout the body. And that helps it bypass the stomach, the gastrointestinal, and the liver systems. Why do we want that to happen? Because the body is better accessed through the bloodstream and it can be delivered properly. A little bit will make it through the stomach and the gastro and the liver, of course, traces will, but the longer you hold it, the better response that you'll have, and the quicker it'll be activated in the body. Now, if someone cannot hold it under their tongue, then swallowing it is going to take a little bit longer to activate. It will have to make it through all the systems in the body, but this is just a general guideline. Holding it there for 2 minutes and then thinking to yourself, how do I feel? How is my discomfort level? Do I feel genuinely happy? These are all things that you can ask yourself when starting. And then as you increase your dose, you want to wait about 3 days in between an increase. So 2 drops twice a day for 3 days, and then 3 drops twice a day for 3 days, and then 4 drops twice a day for 3 days. This small increase allows the body to acclimate. The body needs a chance to get used to what this new dose is doing for the body. The quicker you increase, the harder it is for our body to acclimate. And also keep in consideration that the body will also accumulate CBD. CBD is and THC and all of the molecules are actually stored in the fat cells. And so the body is going to continue to use this energy and it'll be released in the system. So if you're oversaturated and that body is storing, then your body is going to re-release it and it might not be the correct dose for you. So always take caution when increasing, because you don't want to oversaturate, and we're going to talk about what that looks like too. But general tips for beginners is to make sure to shake and take. Shake your bottle of CBD oil well before taking it. Place it under your tongue and don't just swallow it. And then be patient and don't be discouraged if you don't get immediate results you're hoping for. Many people don't get measurable results for a few weeks, but let's talk about measurable results. If your client is using the CBD oil for discomfort or maybe for a specific ailment, but they're not getting the results they're looking for, let's think about looking for other things that the body could be regulating, like sleep, stress levels, response to stress, maybe even alertness or relaxation. So all of these things are already being balanced by the endocannabinoid system, and that is an indicator that your body is starting to work. It is starting to activate and send these signals throughout the body. So increasing much more than that is not necessarily going to get you a better result. So always go slow, make an experimentation happen, journal your responses, and keep researching and learning from the experiences of others. Ask other Green Compass advocates what they've experienced with their clients with similar issues, and maybe you can help guide them. We should all be working together to find out how to best utilize CBD oil, as it's still basically not well known of how much or what type of strains and things like that are working in our body. So we have to experiment and use best judgment. So let's talk about what I had mentioned on saturation. How many people have heard, I've been taking CBD, but it's not working anymore? This happens a lot. And this is typically because for a week, maybe they're getting good results because they're taking a moderate dose, but then they think, you know, I've been taking 10 drops. I think I'm going to increase it to 20 to get a better response. This is not necessarily the best way to handle it because there is a phenomenon called reverse tolerance. Typically, a person will need less CBD to feel the same effects. Over time, your body will acclimate as well, and so you may need less CBD over time, during your journey of utilizing Green Compass. We mostly see this with full spectrum CBD, but it also can occur with isolate. Typically, people need a little bit more isolate to give the effects of full spectrum because of all of those different cannabinoids working together, which we call, quote unquote, the entourage effect. But a lot of times people will use too much and then it stops working. And why is that happening? Because more endocannabinoids that are available in the body, the less CBD that is needed to feel the benefits. Because once your body is a well-functioning endocannabinoid system, you're not going to need as much CBD anymore. Your body is now balancing and going into what we have called homeostasis. So let's say your customer says, I was using it for a couple weeks, it worked great, and now it's working anymore, or it's not working. What can we do? So first of all, make sure they're microdosing. How did they start taking it? Did they read the instructions on the bottle that said to take a full dropper? Sometimes people need to work up to that dropper, right? The dropper doesn't necessarily need to be your starting point. So the microdose goes a long way. Start low and slow. Now, if they aren't getting the desired results and they need to start over, have them take a break for at least 48 hours, maybe even up to a week. It depends on their system. So we need the endocannabinoid system to get a chance to reset. And this is very important. And then once they've reset for maybe 3 days, have them start back up on a microdose. They may be confused, and explain to them how the endocannabinoid system is a large signaling system and not necessarily needs more CBD as the body regulates. Hopefully this helps you guys out. Another thing that we hear about is the two-faced cannabis. Yes, cannabis is two-faced. If you've ever heard of a bell curve or a therapeutic range, this is kind of like Goldilocks. Not too hot, not too cold, it's just right. Well, everybody's just right is different. And so it's really important to note that even cannabis needs a just right point, because cannabis compounds have biphasic properties, which means that low and high doses of the same substance can produce opposite effects. You're probably wondering, what? So if I take a little tiny dose and a very large dose, it can produce opposite effects of each other? Absolutely. Because small doses of cannabis tend to stimulate, but large doses maybe can sedate. Too much THC, while not lethal, can amplify anxiety and mood disorders. Have you ever heard that from somebody? I tried THC and it made me more paranoid. It made me feel off. And this is because it was too much for the system and smaller doses were more effective. CBD has no known adverse side effects at any dose, but an excessive amount of CBD could be less effective therapeutically than a moderate dose. So always, again, less is more is often the case with respect to cannabis therapy, and dosing is everything. So if this helps you understand, to explain to your customers, just tell them it's about Goldilocks. Find your Goldilocks range, your therapeutic range, your bell curve. Lower amounts might not work, higher amounts might not work, but in the middle is just right. And it might take time for you to find that. So make sure that you're working with your customers on a daily to weekly basis so that they can find that spot. All right, Tracilea, I'm handing it off to you.
Awesome, awesome. I love that two-faced. For me, it was a really good analogy to remind me that alcohol is also biphasic. I know you and I were talking about that earlier, Marlies, but anybody can relate to having one cocktail and they're very social and happy and life is good, but after several cocktails, they're either, you know, crying like a baby, telling you all their woes, or maybe they get really aggressive. So alcohol is also two-faced or biphasic. So for me, that is incredible. Now, as we start this next segment about how CBD may interact with medications, I want to remind you of the first slide. We are not doctors. We're not giving any medical advice, and we are not telling you that it is or isn't safe for you to be consuming cannabis. We want to remind you that Green Compass has been generous enough to hire a medical advisory board. So if you've got specific questions that you're concerned about, they would be a good group of people to send that question to. What I'm going to do is give you an overview. Does CBD interact with medications? Absolutely can, you bet. If you or someone that you know is asking if cannabis interacts with medications, and they're on a medication that has a warning label that they need to avoid grapefruit juice, you can be assured that it's possible that medication will also interact with cannabis. And the reason for that is that We've got enzymes called the cytochrome P450 in our liver. And what those enzymes do and what they're responsible for is actually breaking down that medication and putting it to work in our body. Now, what grapefruit juice as well as cannabis can do is block or inhibit those enzymes from doing their job. So there's a couple of things that you need to know about this. First of all, it's possible for you to take your medication first thing in the morning and wait at least 2 hours. Then you can consume your cannabis. The reason for that is once you take your medication, that 2-hour time period will allow your body and those cytochrome P450 enzymes to break down your medication and allow it to go to work. Then when you ingest your cannabis, you'll get the benefits from that as well. I always say consult your doctor. It's also important for you to know about a study that was done with patients that were consuming certain medications and adding CBD. It's important to know that the only result that they got as far as interaction was when the patients were taking what's considered to be a very high dose of cannabis, meaning 100 milligrams or more of CBD. Now, let's compare that to what most people are consuming. Let's say, for example, you're using 1,000 milligram bottle of Green Compass CBD. If you're ingesting 1 milliliter a day, you are actually consuming 33 milligrams a day of CBD. So you can see that you're nowhere near that high dose. Does that mean I'm telling you it's okay to take your cannabis with any medication? No, certainly act with caution and consult your doctor. But I want you to know that it does take quite a large concentration of CBD to interact with those medications. Let's see here. Who is next? Molly.
Hey guys, so you have learned so much information today, which is a lot of education, and it's education that you pass on to your customers. And this is not a one-time education. This is really a continuing education piece for both you and the customer. So we just really want to stress to you how important follow-up is. We want to provide awesome customer service. You reached out to this customer, you helped them pick a product because you cared about them and you wanted it to be helpful to them. And now you want to follow up to know if it is being helpful to them, because what if it's not? And if you didn't follow up, you wouldn't have the ability to problem solve with them. You wouldn't be able to discuss those resets or microdosing or interactions, and just really not only continue to educate them, but you'll learn more yourself from following these customers that you've gotten. You'll also have the potential to gain testimonials to share that are, personal testimonies in your business. So whatever your system is, come up with, whether it's on the phone or you like to write it down on paper, but make sure that you are following up with these customers, not only to continue helping them, but to help your business gain that reputation of excellent customer service and truly having a heart for the customer. So we thank you for taking this time for learning more about CBD and the body and the endocannabinoid system and all these wonderful things that Tracilea and Marlies have been so kind to share with us. And we hope that this is something that will just propel your business forward and make you a more confident advocate for Green Compass.
Thank you guys so much. We appreciate you. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to your upline, to message one of the corporate trainers. Of course, we can be available for your questions, but always make sure to follow protocol on how you reach out. Tracilea, do you have anything to add?
No, it was an honor to be able to share all this information with everybody, and I agree with you, Marlies. We're happy to help, no matter what team you're on or who you are. We're excited about your success, and we're excited about your knowledge. So thanks, Marlies. Thanks, Molly.
You're so welcome. Bye, guys.